So welcome. I'll start with a bit of an agenda. So what I'm going to touch upon in this session is some engagement design principles that will hopefully help you think about some other aspects of designing, engaging consultations and projects. And after we've been looking at some principles, I'm actually going to focus a lot on some case examples. So I'm not talking about any particular products or tools. So those are obviously tool independent. You can do most of that stuff with any tool that you're using. The idea here is to give you some pointers and again ideas how you could improve your practice. Then moving on to data visualization. So looking at some results and examples again, how you can visualize some of the data that you're capturing in your projects. And in the end, I hope we will share some experiences, challenges, ideas together. I'm aware that the time is quite limited. We only have half an hour, but I'm trying to leave some time in the end. So as you're thinking, you're seeing an example that I'm showing that reminds me of this and that. So maybe in the end, you will be able to share that with the rest of us. Okay, let's start with some design principles. First of all, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that when we're doing especially digital engagement, we are often talking about the usability of those surveys and questionnaires. But that's just one part of the thing. So it's all about removing friction. So as it is more usable, more people are likely to go through the whole survey, the questionnaires and so forth. But the usability actually doesn't do much about increasing motivation. So if there's an example that you are consulting on new process or on your building permits, so it's not going to be very exciting even if you have very usable survey on that. So many people might think, I'm not interested. So what you need to think about was to maybe cover that it's functional, it's reliable, useful, might be even convenient, which means it's super easy to use. But if we put more focus on thinking about things like pleasurable, creating memorable experiences. So if we are talking about building permits, for instance, we could create interesting gamification, step by step, how you do that in the new process. And that's something that people would be willing to do through and even tell their friends and relatives that this was really exciting, so it was fun. I actually collected some points or whatever. So having it memorable will increase the chances of getting more and more traction. And the last step would be, of course, meaningful. So finding ways to increase the personal significance of those consultations. Bit more concrete ideas on design principles. First of all, you are all probably aware of different learning styles in different presentations. Still, I notice that we often forget that when we are designing those consultations. So some people like seeing, so it could be like images that work better for them. Some people like hearing, so using podcast or using videos that combines seeing and hearing is one option. On the other hand, some people like reading and writing, so in those cases documents are better. Or then doing. There was a very good example, some of you probably attended the previous session here on digital engagement. There was augmented reality, virtual reality, so that's a very good way of reaching out to those people who don't want to just talk about it or read about it, they just want to do and go and see how it is. And of course it's a challenge if you have already a lot of things to do, so how do you provide all of those? But ideally, of course, think of the different methods. You would have different channels so that you let the users or the people decide what works for them, and through that you will get more and more responses. Also think about the format in a sense that some people want to talk in a group or interact in a group, whereas some people won't say a thing in a group. Instead, they need that face-to-face time, private discussions and so forth. So also an important consideration. And then one personal preference is typically also this non-linear and linear. Some people prefer to go through a consultation or for instance a survey that check, step 1, step 2, I've completed and it's ready. Whereas some people would prefer to have maybe a visual image or map where you can scroll, you can go to different areas. You're maybe interested in a certain part more, so you can explore that without being forced to go through a linear step that's not very comfortable for the way that you think or work. So those are about the learning styles, or the different styles we have. Moving on to reactions. So the reactions we have on new things that we see and encounter, they're always emotional. So that's something we can also leverage. It comes back to the previous slide. So creating those memorable experiences of personal significance. So if you can create experiences that they really remember, that's something that they're going to tell other people as well. And you get the viral effect of sharing and so forth. Another way of reaching to emotion is the storytelling. Very good example actually from last year is the Tasmanian Fire Service. And they won one of the gold awards for a storytelling map that they created. So it was about the bushfires, I think in '67, which is still a big topic. And they gave an opportunity for people to enter video booths and make recordings of what they remember of those. And they put it on a map, so you could kind of scroll the area and click on different areas. So it was storytelling. So for the participants, they get to tell their own story, but it was also storytelling for people who are looking at the results. And those are very captivating. So again, if you can incorporate some storytelling in your consultations, that's more likely that it's going to be something that they remember, something that they want to come back to. I like to mention that the attention span has been getting shorter. You all know that it's been the last 10 years. Facebook, LinkedIn and so forth. Click, click, click. Let's get on to the next one. So long form text is not probably going to work. So if you can be concise, it's going to be more likely that you'll get more attention. Engaging directly on the source. That's partially about selecting the tools and channels. So if, for instance, if you have a plan, if you can make the consultation in a format that people can actually look at, for instance, the plan and leave feedback directly on the plan, it's much more likely that you'll get relevant feedback compared to the fact that if you have a PDF plan that they have to read through and then they go to a survey where they answer questions and so forth. So having direct feedback on the source and then getting that information back into your planning, that's going to save time and it's going to increase the participation again. What I also would like to mention is that sometimes the threshold of creating some visuals, for instance videos, seems to be quite high. We don't have the budget or it's a big project. In some cases, you can create something very simple that's captivating without any big budgets. All of our mobile phones nowadays, they do high definition videos. So take the project manager, take a nice setting, nice background. He or she sits down and explains, for instance, the project or the reason for that. And you capture it with your mobile phone and you put that online. It's going to be half an hour, 1 hour, no cost. And again, you have one more channel to bring out the information and get people interested. Or you could do interactive graphics. There are a lot of online tools that you can do the graphics interactive so that people can drill in, look at from different perspectives. Having different scenarios and virtual tours, so that's also interesting. The last thing on these design principles before moving on to some examples, I'd like to point out is sometimes it's also useful to use some kind of tricks. For LinkedIn used a few years back this profile completeness, and that is a big draw to some people. So they see that here's my profile, it's only 70% complete. So what do I need to do? I need to upload an image, and I need to put this and so forth. And I think that's something we could use also more in community engagement. I actually have one example on that. So it's of course, again, not going to work for all people, but some people are extremely captivated with this kind of semi-gamification where you get points or you have some percentages that you want to fulfill. One example or idea could be that you have 2 or 3 surveys that a certain group should fulfill each month to get their 100%. So some people might feel the last week of the month they say, oh no, I'm not at 100%, so maybe I still want to give feedback on something. So a few case examples. My case examples, I have some from Australia, some from Europe, some from US. This is a local from Melbourne, city of Moreland. They have been bickering about the location of the toilet for 20 years. And it was very controversial. And what we did in cooperation and with Cindy's project is put in a visual format on a map 2 locations, and then this kind of augmented reality or just images where you put the toilet into the environment where it is. And the survey was just that. You could see those are the options. And in addition, they also asked about the location of respondents. I'll come shortly back to that at the end of the presentation, because that was also a significant part of using data visualization to end the long-lasting fight. Here's another example. I mentioned that engaging directly on a source. So this is still a document. So I mentioned not all people are comfortable reading documents, but if they are, that might be a good way of engaging and delivering information. And then combining it with something that you can just click and drop comments or start discussions within the document. It can be as simple as this, that you have comments, or here you can see someone had a comment and another person has responded and started a discussion on that. So in some cases the tools don't have to be that fancy or special, but if it's just very straight to the point and simple, you can see what you are commenting on and then doing an immediate reaction on that. Here's a similar example as the city of Moreland. This is now from Europe. A city that did a planning on a city center that's a river, it's probably hard to see. Wanted to get some feedback. Again, a very straightforward and simple consultation, putting things on the map and then having people drop ideas, comments, what would they like to have. And again, in the end, I'll show you some results. But just to mention that with this approach, they got hundreds of responses, and if you imagine that you would be trying to ask them without that they would be able to access directly on the map, it would be hard to explain, for instance, that I would like to have this bridge painted or something. You can see there's already 4 bridges in this one image. So you run into trouble quite fast unless you can directly access the data and the visualization where you want to have those ideas. Gamification is also a hot topic. I'm bringing one example again from Europe. What they did in this case is cooperation between the schools and the city planning. It was a district where they had quite a lot of issues with vandalism and the youth were breaking down everything that they were doing. And they did a kind of budget game where they had a certain amount of money that the youth in school groups, along with the teachers, they could actually put in the money and plan how they would use that. Some of those plans were also taken into implementation, so they actually could see that some of the things that they were suggesting came into fruition. But the more important thing was that when they could see the prices of those things, when a 15-year-old understands that the bench is going to cost $2,000, it's not just a $100 thing. That changed a lot of the behavior. Not necessarily those who are breaking things, so they might not care, but the other youth were starting to emphasize and exercise some pressure because they understood that, okay, this is going to affect if we're going to get the new skate park or not, if we're going to break this and that and that. So within a 1 or 2 year period, there was a huge change in how the people behaved, or especially the youth behaved, because they had a much more understanding through this gamification. What's the real cost of things? I also mentioned that using different platforms, different channels might be interesting. This is about using mobile apps, and this city launched a mobile app for community engagement. It was back in 2016. In the first launch months, they already got 2,000 downloads of the app, which is a huge amount. Because if you've been working in community projects, if you would be getting 2,000 people involved, you know that that's amazing. And also, since they've been feeding in events, news and so forth in the app, it's something that people value and find useful. So you can see that the numbers of downloads have been going up. So currently over 4,000, and that was, we have a population, I think this is a city like 200,000 people, so it's a fair share of the whole population that you have already there, and then you can ask questions. First project got almost 1,000 people giving responses. So just to spark some ideas that the different formats, but also different platforms. It could be online, sometimes it's best to do face-to-face, sometimes it might be a mobile app that might get you the masses of giving your feedback in a very simple, straightforward way. So, not just slides, I'm going to show you quickly. Let's look at the time flying. It seems we are well on time. Again, a few examples. Oh, this isn't working. Just a moment. Guess I need to end the presentation mode somehow. Yeah. These examples are mostly from the US. I picked them because I thought they were very good examples. Again, I'm not saying that you should use these tools or whatever, but just an idea how you can captivate audience with very simple visual things and access. This is about putting interactive content on a document. In this Colfax case, for instance, you have on images dots where you can explore that in a street view. So I won't be open that you know what Google Street View is, but you can dive in and see how it looks like. Or here you can see view long-term solutions. So if you click on that, it opens up a window where you see a 3D model of that area. So again, very visual, very simple. I want to know something more about it. One click, and I can dive into that. Or then we had here, if we go a bit down, again, a street view example, or also videos. So high community priorities. What do people see as the key opportunities? And then you can listen to the community voice and embedded video. Again, I will be playing you the video, you get the idea. So I think this is a very interesting, exciting way of doing engagement in a way that you can go into different aspects, and if you like reading, you can read. If you like listening to videos, you can pop into a video. You can look maps, so offering different options. So another example, it's about the zoning plan. So in this example, in fact, it's not even extremely pretty, the solution, but it's very simple and powerful. So you have an existing zoning plan, you have a proposed new zoning plan, and typically people are interested in what's going to happen in my neighborhood. So you can type in an address, so my street at my suburb, and you can see, for instance, it would be here. You can see the current zoning is single-family residence, and it's going to be changing to residential house scale. Or then you can just scroll and zoom, having this comparison. You click wherever you want to click, and you then get a pop-up of it's a central business district, and it's suggested to be downtown core. So again, very direct on the source. You can see what's happening, and then form opinion, and then give feedback on what you want to do. Participatory budgeting, budget tools have been a hot topic as well. So I wanted to show you one example as well. I think this is also very exciting. This is a regional transport plan for 2050, so a long-term plan. You have a few simple questions, but actually the key thing is here that you have a budget, 290 million, and you can actually click and cite those. So you can see that if I spend 77 million on road and bridges, I'm going to get a certain amount of road and bridges. If I'm feeling that's very important, I'll put it up. I get more roads and bridges, multi-lane roadways. So the medium was here with 13 miles. I don't like roads or cars, so multi-lane roadways down. I saved a lot of money. Maybe I can spend it somewhere else. Intelligent transport systems, so if I want to have a lot of them, maybe 7 projects, or then go down, maybe just 3 projects. And clicking here, you can all the time see the budget and the available money. In this case, we are over budget, so I can't submit, so I have to come within budget with the tool like this, and then I can. I have to go all the way. Transit improvements are cancelled with my plan, and then I can submit. So. But again, the reason for solving this is that what I really like is that it's very direct, very simple, just a few clicks, and you can show a lot of things. Last example, I mentioned the scorecards or leaderboards, giving points to people. This is the engagement portal from Westminster City Council. And what they've created is this kind of leaderboard. Of course, it's not going to appeal to all people, but some people are really crazy about stuff like this. So if you look at the leaderboard, you can see that uploading a profile picture is going to get you 25 points, referring a friend, responding to a survey, 20 points. So for instance, Antoinette has 40 points, so I'm guessing she's responding twice to a survey and has gotten 40 points. So some people are competitive, so you might want to feed into that as well. Sorry?
The points actually get
I think they haven't designed yet if they have. Actually, I'm not intimately familiar with this case. I just found a very good example how you can do it. But that's a good idea, so to have some kind of rewards. Once you get 1,000 points, I don't know, you get a free ticket to the aquatic center for a week or something. That's something we also do. So, last few things before we run out of time. Data visualization. So those were a heap of examples what you can do with different tools, or with many tools actually. Just the things that you might want to consider to get a lot of people interested, get them give you feedback, and then moving into data visualization when you actually have the information. This is again an Australian example. Victorian Planning Authority did a project on Preston Market and did a very visual report on the map-based feedback that they got. So I'm not showing you a live example here, but this is actually an interactive graphic. So you could click on, for instance, the 40 to 44-year-olds, and then this graphic would change what they responded. It's actually the next slide. So for instance, what you love about the Preston Market. So people have been dropping dots. They have been categorized. Again, you can drill in different aspects So what do they say about food and who people are actually commenting about food. And this gives a lot of opportunities how you can communicate the results to the public so that it will be meaningful and easy to use. Because, for instance, if you are, well, I would be here in the 40 and 45, so I would of course click so what others in my age group would be saying. Maybe I would also be interested in design, so I would look what others in my age are saying about design. So good idea of drilling down on information. Another example, this is related to the one I showed, that giving feedback on a document. Sometimes reporting doesn't have to be, the data visualization doesn't have to be so complicated. Sometimes you just want to do very simple things. So comments by type or having a sentiment analysis of those is going to tell you a lot about where the community is at this point. So having just a few diagrams, very well picked, can give you more information than a huge report that has everything you could imagine. This was the Vantaa Riverside development, and here you can see correcting data on the map. They create a heat map. This made it very easy for the planning to take it back, and then you could identify the areas, what are the hotspots of the people's interest, and going through those comments was a breeze compared to having maybe an Excel sheet or something that you would have been working through. This is my last on data visualization. I said the Moreland had a big issue with the toilet. Now it's finally resolved. As you know, some people are very noisy when they are passionate about something. So we can see that's the park that wanted to have the toilet, or when they wanted to build it. And there were quite a few people, this N is no, so they were against it. And they were very loud, so there was an impression that the people living close to the park, they were strongly against it, and they were disputing all the previous consultations that not all people have been heard, or the ones that will actually be affected, they are against it, and so forth. But in this case, they also asked where the respondents are living, and they could then show that, okay, yeah, there's a group that don't like it, but if we look at the yes answers, so even people living right next to the park, it's a huge majority that actually wants to have the toilet, and also being able to show that all around the city there were people responding and taking part. So they could finally put to rest all those arguments about not being conclusive, not doing this and that, with a few visual tricks that finally convinced. Of course, these people were still not happy, but they just ran out of arguments and they could finally build the toilet. Okay, if we have time, I would love to hear if you have any ideas or thoughts that you saw that reminded me of this, or if there's any questions. Yeah. Okay, then, thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming. My name is Cindy and I'm from the Conversation Caravan. So I spent the last 10 years working in a range of different industries, from mining, don't judge me. Started there 10 years ago working with BHP, then moved into the social planning role, working at organisations like Village Bell, Renew Australia, so doing really activation stuff. Then moving into council, where why don't people want to talk to us? Why don't people talk to us? We've got this great project and we really want to get their insights, but it was increasingly challenging to get people to come and talk to us on the street. So Conversation Caravan sprung out of that. We've got a cute 1950s caravan that we roll out and do pop-ups from. What I'm really excited about talking to you today is about some of the work that I've been drawing upon from behavioural science, neurolinguistic programming, and positive psychology that I started studying. To be honest, about 2 years ago, I'd almost given up on engagement. I felt like, I couldn't carry the wisdom of the community to the decision makers. and I couldn't explain to the community what that gap was, and I just started to burn out. I remember, you know, trying to have conversations with the community about those limitations and thinking, I just can't do it. I feel like I'm here living day to day. I thought there's got to be a different way. So yeah, went and studied psychology, started to enroll in that. No, actually, there's a few things that I think we can draw in from that practice into our world. And you know, two of the really simple strategies I'm going to share with you today have helped me overcome so many misunderstandings with my partner, which is great, as well as in the community and the work that we're doing. So who here has had a misunderstanding with their partner? All of us, right? And you think, how did you take that from what I just said? I did not mean that at all. And you know, you have an argument, lots of nods. Yep. And similar, you're in the community, you've delivered some of the best work, being my background, so master plans, you've delivered a master plan that even your industry recognises as a great process, and then the community sees it or feels like your intentions were wrong and their input hasn't been reflected. Who's had that? Or just misunderstood what you said? And who's stood us face-to-face? Engagement. Yeah, we all do. So the two strategies that I'm going to talk to you about today are recognising someone's main modality. So it really pulls on the work that Kristian was talking about, how you can recognise that in a face-to-face context, and also someone's motivational strategy. So people are motivated differently. So you would have heard the carrot or the stick. I'll really be unpacking that a little bit. And also helping you to understand what you are and where you sit, because you actually have biases that you'll always present from your favoured modality. So this is dating, so we're going to get a bit interactive. And you know, I trust that you've either stayed because you felt embarrassed to leave or you came to see me, so I have your permission. So I want everyone to stand up. Before you do that, sorry, the instructions. So I'm going to squeeze this when I want you to sit down, because we'll get a little bit rowdy. But first, I want you to stand up, and I want you to just grab someone's eye contact, and I want you to stand there and maintain that eye contact with that person. Ooh, this is a bit hard. Maintain neutral body. So just be really comfortable. I really want you to look into that image of slides. And just hold space for each other. Go. So it's only a minute, but it's a long minute. Starting to get uncomfortable, isn't it? So talk to me about that experience. How was it? Intimate, yep. Uncomfortable, yep. What else? What was that, sir? Makes you laugh, yep. So you found like it made you laugh, yep. Others? Subconscious? Wondering, did I do my flyer up? I've got something on my teeth. My hair's a bit frizzy because of the sun. They're all the things that we think of when we're in front of the community. And the main difference that I see with engagement and dating is that when we're dating, there's equal responsibility. There's shared responsibility for creating an experience and ensuring that misunderstandings don't take place. You know, or we're trying to clarify them or work through them. My belief is that when you're an engagement practitioner, you need to really hold space for someone, and you need to be in control of that conversation and that environment so that they're getting the experience from you. And so we can only do that when we're not self-conscious, which sounds easier said than done, doesn't it? The best way to do that is to really focus in on the other person. So in a moment, I'll get you to do another activity, and I want you to really focus on the other person. So we'll take it in turns, so with a partner, but you're going to detect someone's processing capability. So for example, as Kristian was saying, there's 3 types. There's a visual processor, there's an auditory processor, and there's a kinesthetic, so the feelers. And so they take what is being said, or they absorb it through those different realms. So me, I'm a visual learner. So I was saying to Kristian, yesterday I was having a conversation with him, and I felt like I knew in my eyes like I was having a stroke, because I was doing these ones as we were talking about great things. Because I'm recalling the information that he's telling me, but I'm seeing it. And, you know, if you've ever spoken to someone and they're talking to you like this, what do you make that mean? Sorry? They're not interested, exactly, yeah. They're shy, they don't want to be here. And that's them accessing their kinesthetic realm. So we need to get really good at getting rid of our concerns and our self-doubt, so that we can recognise when someone's doing that, and then draw them into an experience where they're actually doing something. So eye movements are the best way to do that. You can detect patterns in language, so you can, for example, I will use the word see a lot. Oh, I see. Oh, imagine that. You know, a kinesthetic might say, oh, I feel that, I feel the difference, or I just need to experience it. Or an auditory learner will say, I hear you. So whenever you do that, that's your in to know where to take them next. So whatever you do, on the you've each got a blue card. So the blue card is in front of you. So if you haven't got one, just share and we'll get some more later. So it's just a handy little reference card for you. So on the top, visual, they look up. Auditory, they look at the ear plane. So they might, and kinesthetic will look down. On the back there's 2 questions which you can get a recall response. So what you want to do is you want to ask someone to remember something, and they'll give you the eye movements. So I want you to test it on yourself. So take it in turns. There's 2 questions. Take it in turns, asking one and then switch over. And the person that's being asked the question, just relax. Don't do these ones. I'm not going to move my eye. And then if I say to you, you're an auditory, and you go, no, I'm visual. I'm visual. Just go with it. Just go with it. Just let it wash over. And if you can't get it, then we'll keep practicing. So spend a couple of minutes now and swap over. Questions? So who thought they were visual and found out they were auditory? Yeah, are you okay? There's actually a relief group at the back for anyone that thought they were visual. That seems to be the hardest modality. They seem to be, no, but I'm visual, I'm thinking visually. Who learned something about their preferred style they didn't know? Yeah, great. If you weren't sure, sorry, so you can start to use a combination of the 2. So you can do the 2 are linked. So you either might be auditory and look down, or you look up and look to the left. You'll have one. Yep.
We noticed that if you asked a question that was where was your last holiday?
Perfect.
Then you were thinking about vision, like you were thinking about imagery, so you looked up thinking about imagery, but then if you asked a different question, you didn't look up. You looked down.
Yeah. Wow, God, you just told us to come home. So it can depend, so you can have 2. So you have to test it, but I would say that even if it is something visual, a person that is kinesthetic will feel it, and a person that is taking in a photograph or a map that is auditory will imagine what that sounds like. That's my experience. So what will you do when you're on a date and you have your date in front of you looks down? Yes! Love it! bringing it back. I had a great conversation with someone yesterday that does that strategy with their partner because they're kinesthetic, and someone said that's what you do. I'm going to disclose who, but that's brilliant, that's what you do. And what about when you're in the community and you ask them that question at a drop-in that's, you know, hold their hand, you can hold their hand. Or as soon as you ask that question, you know, how did you hear about today? And they look up, where are you going to take them? Take them to see something, exactly. So take them to the map, or take them to the diagram, or take them to the images. And I don't know about you, but when I was at Bayside Council, I was experimenting with it. You'd often hear the ones that are really auditory digital processes. And there'd be a listing post and you have the room set up, so it was like a trail. And they'd say, I don't know what to do. And it was either show me or tell me what to do, whereas the people that were more visual just got into the activity. So how else do you think that this might be useful for you? What will you do? Yeah, fantastic. I was thinking manipulation of friends, but sure. Love it. Others?
Appreciate your own biases.
Yeah, great one. Yeah, great one. So I love drawing. I love having something that's visual. It's great one. Others? Yeah.
So we can't
Look, sorry, so the thing was recognise my own biases and then looking at the individual more. Because it gives you a purpose to look at someone, doesn't it, as well? Because you've got a purpose for watching where their eyes move and how they engage with the space. Because it then becomes about you creating space for them. Yeah. You can start speaking their way more, which is perfect. Because why? We instantly are drawn to people that we feel are like us. You know, there's studies that's called rapport. So when you're in rapport with someone, it's actually the mirroring and modelling of those things. So you're exactly right. If you can start saying, so what do you see? You know, what are you hearing? What are you telling yourself when you're thinking about this? Or what are you feeling? Then you're actually getting into their language to actually draw out the bits of information that we need. Fantastic. So the next one that I wanted to share with you is the motivational strategy. So there's two options here. So motivational strategy, when we talk about it, is how is someone motivated? So they're either motivated by old terminology, the carrot or the stick. So someone that is motivated by the carrot, we say they're moving forward. So they're motivated by the pleasure of an end goal or achieving something. And someone that is motivated by has a moving away strategy, they're wanting to avoid the pain. So they're moving forward to avoid something behind them. So he wants to lose weight. Does anyone want to lose weight and is brave enough to explain their reasons? Yep. Oh, hands up, don't like it. You're okay when you thought I was going to give you like some kind of magic trick. Come on. Yeah, great. What are your reasons for losing weight?
I've had an 11 kilo chemo weight gain this year and I want it gone.
Okay, why?
Because it hurts to walk.
It hurts to walk. Yep, it hurts to walk with extra. Right, thanks for sharing that. Thank you, appreciate it. Another couple of, I just want to get some variety. So we've got one, yep.
Doesn't he try to be diagnosed?
Right. Okay, so why specifically? Sorry, I know logically why, but I just need you to articulate it so I can see what your strategy is. Okay, sure, so reducing that, yep. Okay, just need another one.
I would like to keep up with the kids.
Okay, all right.
Because they've got longer legs than I have, and I have to walk fast.
Yeah, yep. One more different one.
I want to fit back into my fabulous clothes.
Fabulous clothes, yep. One more over there.
Hi from the floor.
What was it?
I said hi from the
Hi from the
floor.
floor. Oh.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, probably similar to that about fitting into your wardrobe because I can't afford a new wardrobe.
Okay, why do you want to fit into your wardrobe? What into your wardrobe?
My old wardrobe.
Yeah, what will you do? What will they give you?
Oh, it just mean I have to buy new clothes.
That's tough.
And I like my clothes. And it's like those clothes are a lot more funky than the options for.
Okay. Okay. So actually spoke and have more of a moving away strategy. So what I was trying to draw out is we've got moving away from the pain of these two, which is very, very reasonable. They're all great strategies. You two are kind of moving forward. So someone that's moving forward with their weight loss has a moving forward strategy. Says, I want to feel really have vitality. I'm just amping this up. I want to feel great. So you were kind of getting there with the running around with the kids, and the others, I don't want to be sick. I don't want to have illness. So you're moving away from the pain. And what's really important when you're working with those different strategies, they're not right or wrong. It's just the strategy. It's important to go with that with the community. So who has ever asked the community, what do you want? What type of housing choices do you want? We'll go with the planning question. What do you get? You ask them, what type of housing mix do you want? What do they say?
Big ones, big lots.
No big towers, yep. No big towers, yep. Don't want a ghetto. So is that moving away or is that moving forward? Moving away, yeah. So someone that's moving forward will say, I want a community where my kids feel connected. I want to have a community where it's safe, the streets are safe and kids can play and they're really healthy and active. I don't want a ghetto, I don't want a high-rise development. So I've got a couple of questions for you just to experiment with on the back, and you can read a little bit more. So moving away from people will tell you what they don't want. So they'll focus on what they don't want, whereas moving towards people will tell you what they do want. So the questions on the back, just take it in turns, asking it, and see whether you can detect whether you're moving forward or moving away from. So this strategy, I don't wish I was single because I love my husband and we've been together for quite a long time, but I really think that this would have helped me when I was dating because I used to instantly dismiss someone if they had a moving away strategy, so I was moving towards strategy. So if anyone had a hint of negativity, which I labelled negativity, I'd go, that's too negative, which is not, it's society's the one that's given it a label. And that's just someone's strategy. So who found out what their strategy was? Yeah? Moving towards?
Moving away, then we flipped it to make it a moving.
Okay, yeah. So you don't probably need to flip it. That's probably, unless that was obviously.
Well, that's what we were talking about.
Well, I was saying I would like to live in a place that's built for my son to be able to cycle around.
Right, yep. Okay, so a bit of a mixture. Yep, other experiences of that exercise? No? So the important thing is whenever someone's in their space, they've got a moving towards or a moving away strategy, is to let them be in that strategy. It's just their strategy, but use that strategy as a way of unpacking the information. So if someone's over here and they say, I don't want 5 stories, I don't want a ghetto, then go with that. What would happen if there was a ghetto? Well, there would be crime or there would be drugs. What would crime or drugs mean? So go with that. So just go into that detail because you'll get what you need out of them. So you'll find out they've got, insecurities around safety or drugs or protection for their children. Whereas if someone's got a moving forward strategy, why is a health and safety? Why is a safe, a beautiful community right for you? Well, it's safe. You'll get there anyway. Does that make sense? You'll get there either. But if you're trying to pull people to either your strategy, I used to be one of those annoying people. Kind of still a little bit annoying on that. But no, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I'm trying to pull them to my moving forward strategy. And it's the fastest way to annoy people. Definitely don't do it. So who can see, that's really the end. I'm interested in knowing what you're going to do with this afterwards. How are you going to embed it into your practice?
I'd be interested, I'd ask this question through Slido as well, but I'd be interested in, what about, when you ask that question, what kind of housing would you like to see in this space? We had an experience recently where we did that, and the answer resoundingly was none.
Yes, true, it was a...
Yeah, so basically the answer was, don't change it. So is that a fear? How would you recommend you take that one step further to find out Well, the motivation behind that, I mean, the motivation was that they love a beautiful green paddock and they but
Yep. So I had this example at Bayside in my last my council role. So in Hyatt, which is a changing community, it's near Southland, if anyone knows Melbourne. So one of the questions was, what about development that what about development that you don't like? What is it? And it became an overcrowding issue. So we actually thought it was a height issue, but it actually became, well, I won't be able to get access to any services. So if you can just go within that question, what about housing that you don't want? Imagine where people live. And I don't know the context of your story, and I'm happy to chat with you after. But it's another level, but it's called chunking. So we can chunk down.
Yep.
What will this give you? 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 So you chunk out their strategy to get to the top or the bottom.
I think you need to be careful about what questions you pose, because I'm just thinking that actually, look, the question will be, what do you like about your community? What do you don't like about your community? Which is a bit leading.
Yes.
It doesn't provide the opportunity to find out where their natural strategies might lie.
Absolutely, and it really depends on what the work is. So I mean, a community asset approach, then that is drawing on what's great about your place. But yeah, there's a whole lot of presuppositions in there that they actually love and identify. So you're absolutely right. We need to look at how we word things, not to presuppose what we think. Yep. Others about what you've learnt today, so about the strategy or the modalities. How will you use this? On your life, love it! It would change your world. On your dad! Great, how are you going to use it? How are you going to use it on your dad? No, but pull him over. I know that it's so exhausting, isn't it? My husband's the other side, so I always pull him over and it's just easy. It's easy now. Others? Yep.
I'm going to make sure next time I plan an engagement approach that I have, I'm going to make sure next time I plan an engagement that I have all three, that I cater for everybody.
Perfect, exactly. And I think that's it. Online gives us that ability to do that as well. We can have videos, we can have forums, we can have all those things. It's great. Face to face, yeah. You can see how. I see you You're so going to be annoying tonight if you go to the video and watching you on the library.
So I can see how this works in a one-on-one situation. How do you manage this when you're in a group setting?
Yeah.
People are, using different strategies. So how do you adapt what you're doing so that you're still there for everyone?
It's really, a great question. And I think as you start facilitating more with it, you can start playing. So today, I've done a combination of talking at you. So the ordinary people are loving it. Then I've done the feely stuff where we're getting up and we're moving, and then you've got a visual card. So try and just break up the activities so that you cater, because you can't cater for someone all the time in all the moments, but you can make sure you don't lose people.
It's also a preference. You'll use all three of those modalities. You prefer one over the other, or the other two.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not excluding people by having all three in a workshop. You're just catering for their preferences.
Totally, yep. Well said, yep. Exactly that. That's what I recommend. Break it up and have, send, if I'm running a workshop, I'll send participants pre-reading material so that the auditory people are prepared. They can read it, they can think about it. The visual people don't care. Have a look at some maps, so they'll come on the day and listen to the presentation. But it just helps to plan for all that. Any other thoughts, final thoughts or reflections?
Just an observation.
Yep.
I had an engagement where we were building a power line from a power station to a mine and had to go through a town. The town was already pretty heavily imposed upon from an infrastructure perspective, and they were quite used to the mines telling them how things were going to be rather than getting much say. And we would normally go out and say, well, here's our preferred route, but we could possibly put it somewhere else, what do you reckon? And then, have people attack it and be left with nothing. Yeah. I went out with a blank piece of paper and said, tell me the things you want us to avoid, and we'll find a route that misses all those things.
Yeah.
And people really struggled with it. They really had a hard time understanding what we meant in the first place. And then even once I explained things like, you know, is there a school you don't want it to go past, and things like that. Because the problem is if you give them the options, and they say they don't want it, and then you ask them for an option, they'll put it past somebody else's house who obviously doesn't want it either. So this way we could say, well, what are the key things you wanted us to miss? And it occurred to me doing this that I was asking them to lean away from something when in fact they might have had an approach that required them to lean towards. So it's not a question, but just an observation. Maybe as a community they were more inclined to lean towards things because that was definitely a concept that they had a really hard time with. But we must have achieved something because after we got all the feedback and then we ran updates, nobody came today, so I think they could be satisfied.
Right. Sounds like a week. And I think, you know, we've had some great thinking in the room this morning around behavioural change and, you know, the role of activists. If you take away that role, then what do they play? And there's a whole nother lot. You can Google it. Tony Robbins does some great work. I know Tony Robbins, he walks fire, but he actually has some great ideas. He talks about 6 core needs, and one of them is the need for certainty and the need for significance. And so I'd say that there's a strong need for significance. It's just, there's so much in this behavioural space that we just need to pull in and play with. Great. Well, thank you so much. It's been amazing.
Great. Thank you everyone for sticking around. And the session you're in, just to make sure you're in the session you need to be in, is the great professionalisation debate. Last year we were travelling around the countryside as part of the Next Generation Engagement Program, and that's myself, Industry Director. My name is Kristian Jaakkola, and my good colleague, Dr Sara Bice, who is our Research Director. So we travelled all over Australia, we spoke to a couple of hundred practitioners, and some really interesting stuff started to come out about how practitioners see ourselves, both in our job and also within our industry, so in terms of how our colleagues see us. And we certainly had some interesting sentiment where people were saying it wasn't uncommon to hear people say that they didn't feel that engagement was on quite the same level as the hard, quote unquote, hard professions. So when you're sitting there with the engineer and the project manager and the finance person, that perhaps the view from the engagement professional wasn't as well regarded. And we started having all of these different conversations about whether there is a need for professionalisation or not. And there's certainly some different viewpoints. So this afternoon what we want to do is bring, I've got to say, 3 of my absolute favourite thinkers when it comes to engagement. I'm so delighted that we've got everybody, it's great. So 3 of my favourite thinkers about engagement to really debate this out. And to make it interesting, we are having, so it's a debate, that kind of debate. But what we're going to ask them to do is argue both for, so it's not a knockdown drag out, but we're going to ask them to argue both for and against professionalisation. We will have 3 minutes each. Now I'm timing and I am going to squeeze it all you at the 3-minute mark, unless you're saying something really interesting and I'll leave you alone. So first I just wanted to introduce our speakers. They're worth getting to know. So we have, as I mentioned, Dr Sara Bice. Sara heads up the Next Generation Engagement Program. She is Associate Professor, and the only person I know who's Associate Professor in 2 places, with the ANU Crawford School of Government, which is Australia's top research school, just saying, and also with the University of Tsinghua in Beijing. Sara is the Global President for the International Association of Impact Assessment. You're going to see a theme on this in a moment. And also one of the world's leading social licence researchers, authors and speakers. We have Kylie Cochrane, who is another genius in this space. Kylie heads up IAP2 International, which I'm sure most of you know, so I feel a little embarrassed even introducing you because I'm sure people know you. Kylie is also the global lead for communication and stakeholder engagement at Oricon and is one of the leading advisors in the infrastructure engagement space. Finally, we have Rachel Fox. Rachel heads up stakeholder and community engagement for RPS Australia Asia Pacific. Sorry, stumbling. And she has more than 20 years in leading engagement programs both in Australia and the UK with experience on some of our most significant mega projects. I think some recent examples include the Greater Sydney Commission piece of work that you did for them, certainly Sydney Metro and Parramatta Light Rail, and that's just off the top of my head. She has buckets of others. The reason I think it's fantastic, particularly to have Kylie and Rachel debating this, is because they're in the business of selling professional skills. So they should be the people who know the answers to a lot of these questions. Now I'm going to pop this down and get it out of the way, and I'm going to invite Rachel to kick off with the for and against. Where would you like to stand? Are you a stander or a sitter?
I'll stand.
Okay, I'm going to sit for the time.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kirsty. And yeah, it's not so much of a standoff with Kylie because I think we have to do for and against. So we're kind of fighting with each other, with ourselves, really, on this. So I'm going to put some arguments about why we should professionalise our industry. And I think if I was to very crudely sum it down to one statement, it would be this: we're pretty important these days. We better get it right. So we comment a lot about how our profession has grown rapidly over the last decade, about how it's grown in size and scale and depth and influence. And that's as a result of the pioneers in our profession, but also because of the contextual change, the decline in trust that we talk a lot about, the decline in legitimacy that our decision-making bodies are facing. And I think generally engagement is looked to as an approach to try and bridge that risk, that trust deficit, and to connect with communities that need to be sort of brought along with key decisions. So I think as a result, as a profession, and this is a good thing, we are now in the tent. We are now brought in as part of core teams to practice our art. But what that means is that two things, is that we are looking front and centre at the problems around engagement and the opportunities it brings, and that is hard. Our profession is hard, and what we do is difficult. And also it means our practice, rightly, is under a lot of scrutiny. And I think for that reason, we need to professionalise, because we need to up our standard so that we meet that scrutiny and we are best able to solve those big problems. I like Cindy's comment just there, that she has found it difficult to carry the wisdom of the community to the decision makers, and that again is why we need to professionalise. If you think about what we have to do, we have to keep abreast of trends in our profession and in a rapidly changing world. We need to be across digital engagement, deliberative engagement, research-informed engagement. We need to know and test and experiment and try out different ways of engaging young people, Aboriginal communities, CALD communities, busy people, very big unheard group. And all the signs at the same time make the continued case for engagement and the value of engagement outcomes to our professionals. And that means we need to be across planning processes, contractual issues, we need to talk the language of risk, of budgetary setting, of program management, and we need to make better business cases. And what that means is we need to professionalise. We need to do three things. First of all, we need to constantly uplift our practice through things like this, communities of practice, training like IAP2. That's a constant need in our profession. But we need to create a baseline of academic and practical training by bringing our practice into the classroom and into tertiary education. That means we can guarantee a base level of training across all the practice. We need to look at accreditation. We talk about best practice, but I also think that's in the future. We have to look at a baseline of our practice and have a system where we can accredit good practice, and so we know what is good and what needs to be developed. And that is important as for us as individuals, because without that baseline accreditation, we can't measure the careers of the development of our own careers. We can't look at pathways for personal development. It's hard to attract talent, because without a clear pathway, importantly, it's hard to remunerate. Is that now? No, I'm well up. So professionalise now, that's what I say. And so now I'm going to say to you, don't listen to what that Rachel Fox says. I'm going to give you the case for no, and get to the right place. So the big problem, I think, around the issue of professionalisation, and I'll just define what professionalisation might mean. I'm not arguing against being professional, clearly, or professional development. We need that. This is really important. I'm talking about the full gamut of tertiary education, accreditation, membership of industry organisations, basically everything I just said just now. I have a problem with it, because I think if we go too far down that path, we run the risk of being too distinct and too rarefied as a profession. We lose the opportunity to expand the practice into other professions, and actually we actually could potentially create a self-interest around our profession and end up defending our self-interest as a profession rather than working towards extending the practice. And Shelley this morning talked about when she looks at Aboriginal engagement, her utopia, her vision is to do herself out of a job. And actually that's my vision for us, is to do ourselves out of a job, because engagement is actually a business as usual practice and not a rarefied profession. If we go too much down the professionalisation path, we'll become a little bit tick a box, and we'll lose that bespoke, tailored nature which makes our practice so special and allows us to keep up with nuances and developments in community and society. Importantly, we'll miss out on the diversity of background that does already come into our profession. And you look at all the things I said before about risk, about technical things. Well, actually, a lot of people come into our profession from that technical background, and they speak with credibility because of that to our communities, and they are able to engage professionally. And also, there's a lot of stuff that you can actually teach. Things around maturity, understanding nuance, reading body language, all of that comes through experience and through diversity of background. And if we professionalise too much, we run the risk of losing that. And I want to talk finally a little bit about moving things into getting a degree in engagement. I'm sceptical around that, and the reason I am sceptical about it actually is why I'm sceptical about a lot of, practical degrees. I think we should go to university to learn for learning's sake, to think, to challenge, to read, to challenge our own assumptions, and to not purely think about the end career in mind. And I think if we pick from university graduates, from a wide range of university graduates, we'll get a rich seam of talent. People that have studied all sorts of things, from English literature to applied mathematics. There's no reason why they can't be good engagement professionals. Blah, blah, blah. And then I think they can come to us as wide human beings that are able to do professional development and practice their professional craft through organisations like IAP2. Oh, perfect.
Thank you, Rachel. That was a bit close. Thank you, Rachel. We're going to slide on over to Sarah now. A little bit of a different take. So, and should I be really mean and say you can't use the same arguments as the previous speaker?
Fortunately, I'm not going to use the same arguments, but what I am going to do is, because Kirsty's my friend, tell her not to start timing me yet, because first what I have to say is, when I speak about the four, I'm going to use the word we, and I know I'm standing up here and it says that I'm an associate professor at a university, which I am, but I came to this work for more than a decade in stakeholder and community engagement. My very first job was as an advocacy coordinator with Oxfam Australia, working directly with mine-affected communities, mostly in developing countries and very remote parts of Australia. So I humbly ask you, the professionals, to please allow me to use we, because I do feel like I'm one of you. After you hear my against thing, you may not think I'm one of you, but you should also know that I'm originally from the US, which makes me extraordinarily competitive, so when I was told to argue for and against, I really went for it, okay? You can start the timing now, Kirsty. So, four. Yeah, see? Highly competitive. Professionalization matters. It brings with it role, legitimacy, a set of standards, and a broader recognition not possible in an expert but otherwise dispersed discipline of community engagement. I'm a researcher and we are always defining things. So let me start by defining what I mean, or what the literature tells us that professionalization is. Sachs defines professionalization as encompassing the following things: power, capacity to gatekeep, collective activity for the public good, a shared professional culture, which I think we can all see here today, existence of professional practitioner groups, and also exclusionary power, being able to say that actually, no, you don't qualify, you're not part of this group. Tertiary level qualifications, standards boards, certifying bodies, and related certification programs, or centralized thresholds for participation, are often also characteristics of professionalization. It's something that we can clearly define. For community engagement, professionalization can help us to articulate the foundational skills, capabilities, knowledge, experience, and values that fundamentally shape our practice. The work of associations like IAP2 and the International Association for Impact Assessment, for which, as Kirsty mentioned, I currently serve as president, has already gone a long way towards defining best practice, skill sets, the knowledge and experience that's to be expected of a community engagement professional. Is it someone with a comms degree? Is this someone trained in stakeholder management? Is it an engineer with people skills? Is it someone with, thank you, because that was a joke. Is it someone with an arts degree? Is it a bachelor's or a master's degree? Maybe it's a PhD. Probably not, but you know, hey, I've got one, I'd like to be involved. Today, look, we really don't know the answers to any of these pretty basic questions, but I am here to argue that we should. The time for professionalization of community engagement is now. It will bring cohesion to our practice. It will help us to define and refine best practice in ways not previously possible through coordination of a peak industry body. Professionalization will make Australian community engagement world leading. We can set the standard. It will give us a seat at more tables, more often, and with more influence. I like it. Professionalization recognizes that we are more than, mostly women, good at talking to people. We are more than just people who are good at talking to people. We're more than a sausage sizzle, more than an outlet for complaints. We are professionals, and it's time we were recognized as such. Yes. All right, please come and talk to me at the dinner and have a drink with me, because now I'm going to do this. Okay, hold on. Okay. Against. All right, people, let me tell you. Professionalization is an unnecessary distraction at a time when community engagement practitioners should be getting their hands dirty with the people that matter in the places where they can make a difference. We are experiencing perhaps the most intensive period of infrastructure delivery in Australian history. People need us. They do not need us spending time on useless degrees that will only funnel cash into gluttonous universities while delaying us reaching the outcomes that matter. Professionalization will take too long. It takes years, I can tell you, to establish new university degrees and curricula, longer for the first students to graduate and then reach the employment market. It takes even longer for market salaries to recognize and rise in response to those new qualifications. This will greatly limit the most direct incentive for anyone to pursue further study, better pay. And even if you were now to say, well, yeah, Sarah, but that's a rather limited understanding of professionalization. You know, it's about more than tertiary degrees and training. I would counter, yes, but the other arguments are just as weak. Let's take certification. Seriously, folks, are we ever going to certify practices that many admit to doing based on their gut or intuition, on their experience? Can we really certify a profession that we continue to fail to articulate a clear value argument for? When we can't communicate what we do to our colleagues in engineering, finance, or project management, really? We're going to certify as a profession a field based almost entirely on intangible values, social good, equity, giving voice to the marginalized, and feelings? The CPA would be laughing. And so, colleagues, it is with some regret that I say to you, oh man, I wrote this. That I say to you, stick to your knitting, a profession we hate. And people are fair enough, fair call, I think. Kylie, can you please bring us back to a place where we feel proud of our profession again, if you would? And yes.
So my friends, I last debated a number of years ago back at high school. And can I first say thank you to my esteemed colleagues for their considered input and content. I come from the days where debating is bluster, more bluster than there is content. So I have 5 key points. Point number 1, and you're going to do this with me. Hands up if anyone has told you, how hard could it be? I did ask if I could say fuck on stage today. For fuck's sake, how hard could it be? A professional association means that we have legitimacy, that we have the credibility, so that people don't say to us, how hard could it be? How many of you reply to that? I know I often reply and say, well, I live in Sydney. I drove over the Harbour Bridge twice a day. I guess that makes me a bridge engineer. Sharing is caring, my friends. This is point number 2. Sharing is caring. If we do not, through the professionalism of our industry, if we do not share our methodology, our processes, our learnings with emerging professionals, our industry will die. You heard that today. No professionalism means engagement dies. Point number 3. I have to check. Is that 3? It kind of relates to point number 2. Professionalism actually provides an opportunity for future growth of our industry. There are many, many people who come out of a discipline that is not engagement because we don't yet have engagement qualifications at university. We're journalists, we're PR people, we're communications people, we're policy people, we're teachers. We come from a whole range of industries. And we are missing out on some incredible talent because they stay in marketing, PR, journalism, teaching, etc. If we had our own professionalism and our own qualifications, we would get that amazing talent from day 1. They would be doing the engagement course at university. We wouldn't have to wait until they realised that PR had no soul. Point number 3. No, I'm up to 4, thank you. I do comms maths. Point number 4. Excuse me. Clearer engagement standards or industry standards for engagement reduces the risk of engagement on projects. How many have you, another audience participation question, how many of you have heard of projects where the engagement was done by an engineer, project manager, and not done particularly well or not done at all? If we had professional standards, if we had accreditation, if we had an academic degree, no one would even consider pretending to be the engagement professional. And point number 5, this is the good one. Every single industry that is a professional industry that moves towards academic qualifications, every single one, my friends, the people get paid more. Who wants bigger salary packages? Yeah. Come on, don't lie. Those of you who didn't put your hand up are lying. Money is not evil. You did too. So, against professionalism. So first of all, my friends, the first speaker or third speaker, the affirmative Kylie Cochran, has no idea what she's talking about. Why would we want to professionalise this industry? I have 5 key points on this. First of all, we risk having a standardised approach to engagement. Why would we want that? We value the fact that we can come up with bespoke solutions. We value the fact that we can tailor what we do to the community, to the project, to the situation. Professionalism, qualifications, accreditation is only going to narrow that for us. It means we don't have that flexibility of approach. Point number 2. How many of you, audience participation, how many of you have stood in front of an angry community or a really pissed off community member, or watched protesters come down the road towards you and you've gone, oh, better check the textbook. What we bring to this industry is our experience. It's the lessons we've learned. It is our gut. And it's not just our gut, it's our gut plus our experience. A textbook doesn't teach us that. And in fact, to people who have said to me, and I'm mixing it up a little here, people who have said to me, how hard could it be? I've said, come to the community meeting with me tomorrow night. It's going to be big. I'll let you speak first. Point number 3, another Whiffin one. What's in it for me? What will professionalism mean for me? White, middle-aged woman, well, white's a bit irrelevant, middle-aged woman. Will I have to go back to school? I'm not going to do that. Will I have to retrain? I don't think so. I'll go on and go back to PR. I'll just call it PR with soul. There will be many, many, many people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s who will not want to retrain, who will not want to go back and do the academic qualifications. We will lose them. I'm sure we don't want to do anything that takes people out of our industry, because we're an inclusive mob, not an exclusive mob. And speaking of inclusivity, access to education. If we do decide we need to have, and this is point 4, if we do decide we need to have academic qualifications, what are we going to do about the person who lives in Cairns and there's no university qualification that they can do, or it's not offered anywhere in Queensland? Is that accessible? Are we okay with that? I very much doubt we will not be okay with that, because we are all about inclusivity and access. Point number 5, and this is my very last point. If we professionalise our industry, we risk having a very, very narrow definition of engagement, which means we can't bring the breadth of experience we bring to engagement. Because for those of us who came to engagement from being community activists, do you get an HD for that? I've been to 5 protests this year. That gives me a high distinction. You cannot quantify that sort of experience. And everyone knows, if you have been an activist or been to protests, you can see. It helps you understand what that crowd behaviour is going to do, is going to be like. You can predict it, or you can anticipate it. Textbook won't teach you that. And definitions won't teach you that. And I'm stopping.
Please thank our very fabulous panel, and we do have some questions. And sorry, I'm going to hold them and ask a few straight off the bat. Now, sorry, before I do that, can we please have an applause-o-meter? Now, firstly, we're going to use the scientifically calibrated applause-o-meter to work out whether we are for or against. So firstly, are we for professionalisation? Are we against the professionalisation of engagement? Great. Oh, good, excellent, good. So we're for, excellent, good. I'm glad we're on that page. I have 5 questions, Kylie. I've picked up on your point. But we're going to have to keep it quick, because I know we need to get to cocktails at some point. So, firstly, and I'm just going to call this out and say, if we are really concerned about elevating our position in the organisation, if you're thinking that we really want engagement to be on the same level as other professions, what are the other things that we need to be thinking outside of professionalisation, because I'm sitting here thinking, does it actually matter how qualified and how experienced I am? Is there some need for other shifts beyond just my own skill set? Thoughts, quick thoughts.
Look, I think it goes a lot to championing and championing each other. And so there's so much discussion now about how do we get in the more influential positions. Kirsty and I have had a lot of conversations about how many community engagement managers, project leads do we see shifting into senior executive CEO roles in the mainstream organizations, and we don't really see it. And so I think there's a lot of work that we can do around echoing each other and championing and starting to push for more community engagement professionals at the boardroom table and in senior executive roles.
Excellent. Sorry, and I'm just going to change it up a bit and say just one person dive in and then we'll have time for some audience ones. Okay, good answer. Next answer, somebody grab it. I really want to know, what do we do about the gender issue? Is there a gender issue at play? Raise hands please. Has anybody else been, and I'm so sorry guys in the room, but girls in the room, have you been one of the lowest paid people on your project team, etc., compared to other disciplines that were more male dominated? Is that an experience we've had? I've had that experience. Anybody else? A few? Here and there? And I'm sure other people, engagement is definitely paid differently, but yeah. So, is there a gender issue? Am I wrong in thinking that? Is there one? What do we do about it?
I think there could be. But what I'd like to say is, instead of going down the rabbit hole of whether it is a gender issue or not and how we then deal with it, what I'd rather do is challenge every single person in this room to, when they hear someone describe what we do as fluffy or soft, challenge that. And what I want you to say, and feel free to repeat exactly what I say, it's not fucking soft. For those of you who have sensitive project managers or others, just say it's not soft. But emphasize it a lot. And challenge the person who has said that to you to come to a community meeting, to stand in front of the protest, to stand in front of the really cranky community member, or go to their home with you and get them to actually see you in action, because there will be a new respect when they do.